I'm a headliner. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we are going to dive into all of my wide receiver research here for Week 5 in just a moment. But Jake sent me a message last night, and he said, hey, want to do a giveaway on your video? And I said, absolutely. So hit that like button for me, because I've got an autographed Juju jersey that we are going to be giving away. Yes, it's his Kansas City jersey. It's not an old one. It is an updated jersey, but we're going to be giving that away in this video. But if you want to have a shot at that, you have got to head over to our friends at Pristine Auction. They have been supplying all of our giveaways this year. Absolutely phenomenal stuff that they sent over to us. Go to pristineauction.com, create a free account. It doesn't cost you anything. Create a free account. You're going to get a $10 voucher, by the way. So if you do see anything cool on their website, which you will, you're going to get $10 off of that. But then that is going to put you in the running to get this signed Juju jersey. So make sure that you do that. I think Juju is going to have a bounce back week. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But good luck to everybody. Hopefully everybody goes over and creates that account and then gets an opportunity to win the jersey. But let's jump into Thursday Night Football. The first matchup of the week is going to be Indianapolis at Denver. And for Indianapolis, yep, the offense hasn't looked great. I understand that, but Michael Pittman is still the number one in that offense. On a per game basis, he is still top 24 in terms of production among wide receivers, seeing decent volume. And yes, this is going to be a tougher matchup, but if Jonathan Taylor is limited or injured in any way still, we are going to need to have somebody to catch the ball on the road in Denver. Yep, Pittman might see 11, 12 targets. Maybe he only catches 6 of those, but if he gets one big play or even scores a touchdown, that makes his fantasy value for the day. On the flip side, for Denver, yeah, they have not been playing that well. Started to take a little bit of a step forward last week, I believe. Sutton and Judy are going to continue to be starts for me. Judy he's been a little bit banged up. He seems to be better, so I just knocked him a little bit on that injury category there. Both of these guys get a 4 with no Javonte Williams, though, this week, and kind of a rotation at the running back position. It would be an excellent week to get both of these guys big games. The New York Giants and Green Bay Packers just littered with injuries on the New York Giants side. I don't even know who's going to be playing for them, to be honest. Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney, both of these guys have been banged up. Potential chance they could play this week. Still don't know for sure. Richie James is really the only healthy wide receiver, it feels like, right now. Kenny Golladay is going to be missing. But it's basically the same thing I said last week. We're staying away from the New York Giants. It just isn't happening. For Green Bay, though, this is a pretty decent matchup for them. Allen Lazard, big day last week. Didn't find the end zone. However, Romeo Doubs was able to find the end zone. And we are going to go with him as our prize picks prop to watch. Our first one this week, because I've got him going over 45.5 receiving yards, going up against the New York Giants, who haven't been great in coverage this year. I believe Doubs is going to find some open space. He's going to have a big play or two, and he's going to continue to show why he has become the number one in this offense. Pittsburgh at Buffalo, and yes, the offense with Kenny Pickett is going to get better. Now, I kept getting comments during my waiver wire video about, did this guy watch the game? Does he know what's going? What do you mean, did I watch the game? I didn't say anything bad about Kenny Pickett. In fact, I've been saying for months now that this offense would be much better with Kenny Pickett. And his performance the other day doesn't change that. At least he tried pushing the ball down the field. At least they tried to expand the offense a little bit with Kenny Pickett. Good for them. That is what they need. Yeah, he threw 3 picks. It's going to happen, though. I'm not saying he's not going to throw picks. It's not necessarily a bad thing that he's throwing interceptions. Yeah, you don't want him to, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either for such a young quarterback. So Deontay Johnson is going to be a start for me. We know he's the guy in this offense that's getting a lot of volume. He's top 12 right now in targets at the wide receiver position, but he's further down in terms of production. Hopefully with Kenny Pickett, we start to see a climb there. Pickens could have a good rapport there with Kenny Pickett. We've seen that already based on last week. Chase Claypool seems to be the odd man out for me, but both those guys are going to be sits this week until we see a little bit more from that offense. And then Diggs and McKenzie are going to be starts for me this week for Buffalo. Now, McKenzie, he could be on the rise. Jamison Crowder is going to be out for a while after breaking his ankle. I still don't think Gabe Davis is 100%. I still believe that he is banged up. When you watch him, you can tell that he doesn't have that explosiveness that he normally does. So until we see that come back, we're going to have to list him as a sit. And then when he gets going again, McKenzie will probably move to being a sit for me. But as long as Davis is banged up, I am going to go with McKenzie. The Chargers and the Browns are going to be meeting up this week, and Keenan Allen, we're still continuing to keep an eye on him, right? Been down and out with an injury here to start the season. When is he going to get back into the flow of things? Well, Mike Williams, he's been doing pretty well. Not a big volume game a couple of weeks ago, only scored a touchdown. He bounced back this past week, though, and had a pretty big game. He's playing very, very well right now, top 24 in production and volume. It's a good matchup for him going up against the Browns. Josh Palmer, though, I've got to stay away from him right now because, unfortunately, he just isn't seeing what we would have thought because Gerald Everett has become such a big part of the offense. And not only that, but again, we still don't know about Keenan Allen. Will Keenan Allen be back this week? Now, I will say, anybody thinking about starting Keenan Allen, I am not playing Keenan Allen until I see a full, healthy game from him. I will leave him on the bench until I see him come back, be healthy, and look good on the field. For the Browns, Amari Cooper, he's going to be back to being a start this week. Yes, a down performance last week. Still top 24 in targets right now, which is what we love to see. We got to see those targets because Amari Cooper is good enough that he will produce as he continues to see those targets. So, not a great week, 2 really good weeks, not a great week, which means we'll be back to having a big week this week. Houston at Jacksonville, Brandon Cooks, we want to get him going, top 24 in targets right now, but he's well outside of that in terms of production. He just isn't scoring fantasy points. We've got a decent matchup here going against Jacksonville. If it happens, it's going to happen this week. It might be a lack of big plays. It might be just, he's not breaking those yards after the catch that we're used to seeing. Whatever it may be, I believe that Davis Mills is a decent NFL quarterback, and we will see this relationship continue to grow throughout the rest of the year. And as long as Cooks is getting the targets, the production at some point should come. It is highly unrealistic for really anybody to be like top 24, top 12 in terms of volume and turn in performances that are well outside the top 36. That just doesn't happen that often. It's very difficult. So expect some things to get going very soon if we get this volume consistent throughout the year and we start seeing some big plays. Now, if Davis Mills continues to get better, a guy like Nico Collins is someone that's going to continue to be on my radar. Kind of the same thing. He's top 36 or top 48 right now in terms of volume, but he's not seeing any production. That should start to even out hopefully at some point as well. For Jacksonville, Christian Kirk is definitely going to be a start for me. One of our preseason sleepers, has been an absolute just banger to start the year so far, and that is what I love to see out of him. The talent is absolutely there, and he's been a big part of Trevor Lawrence's growth, I believe. Zay Jones banged up right now. If he ends up starting, probably will list him as a start just based on all the information that we've seen from him so far, and going up against a Houston team that is an okay matchup, a decent matchup. We know that they're throwing the ball around a little bit right now. They're running it with James Robinson, but he's not as explosive. So we don't see terms of, he's got some big plays that have kind of made his numbers look better, but we haven't seen consistent carries across the board where he looks explosive every time he touches the ball. That will come as he gets healthier and healthier and back from this injury. Travis Etienne hasn't been really explosive. We've seen a few plays here or there. But with those guys really not having that on the ground right now, they're doing that through the air. And if that continues, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk should both be starts this week. Chicago at Minnesota. For those of you that have been holding out hope on Darnell Mooney, we saw a little bit of a flicker last week, right? All right. Yeah, you're trying to get that pilot light started right now, and you're under there, and you're, come on, let's go. And you see it flicker, and you're like, I got it. And then it just goes out again. That's what Darnell Mooney is right now. He is a flickering, he's a flickering pilot light that is ready to just ignite and just get hot right? That's what we need from Darnell Mooney. We saw a little bit of a bounce back last week, but I want to see it consistently before we jump back to listing him as a start. So for right now, he's still going to be a sit for me. Minnesota, though, I mean, they look good on offense. They look good. Justin Jefferson, big bounce back performance last week. Absolutely love to see it. Good for him. He's going to be a start this week. Adam Thielen finally getting more work over the last couple of weeks, which is exactly what we needed. The ceiling might be a little bit lower for Adam Thielen, especially if Minnesota gets out in front of Chicago early, but for Justin Jefferson, that ceiling will be there. Detroit and New England, and the big question here is Detroit going to be healthy? Are they going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown back this week? What are we going to see from them? We know they can score points regardless of who is on the field. We also know that they're going to give up a whole lot of points, which is bad for the Lions and Lions fans. I'm not going to name any names. But it's good for fantasy owners because that means that's just more opportunity for them to score. Amon-Ra, if he's healthy, he will absolutely be a start. One of the best offensive players, number 2 overall among wide receivers right now on a points per game basis. Amon-Ra looking like an absolute beast. Josh Reynolds will be a start for me this week. His X Factor rating is still pretty low for me just because we are still keeping an eye on DJ Chark and Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw TJ Hawkinson come back last week and look like a big playmaker like we've hoped for. We still got Jamal Williams running the ball very effectively on the ground. And I don't want a good performance from Josh Reynolds to just ignite everybody. But this is a good matchup for both teams. Kind of like the same thing we saw last week from the Seattle Seahawks is what we could see from this game this week. So yes, Josh Reynolds, knowing that, yep, he's out there, he's healthy, that missing Amon-Ra and DeAndre Swift and DJ Chark didn't cause any issues last week. We see that. We move forward with him now as a start. Jakobi Meyers, we're still kind of waiting to hear more on that knee injury that he's lost the last couple of games to. On a per-game basis, production-wise, still in the top 36. That's what we like to see from a wide receiver, especially like Jakobi Meyers, who does see a decent volume when he's out there. Obviously, his volume numbers have collapsed the last couple of weeks, not being healthy, but I'm going to go with Jakobi Meyers and Devontae Parker, both as starts this week. They need to be knowing how bad Detroit's defense is. But on the flip side of that, if Jakobi Meyers misses this week, then we're going to go to Nelson Aguilar, and he will become a start. Seattle at New Orleans, and listen, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, all of a sudden they've gone from guys that we know are going to be risky to guys that's like, yeah, we're going them out there. Geno Smith has set an NFL record for completion percentage to start a season. What? Geno Smith? Are we talking about the same quarterback that's just been rolling around the league, that fell in his draft, that, yeah, he put up great college numbers but hasn't done anything at the end? That Geno Smith? Listen, props to that guy for sticking it out and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to keep trusting the process, and look at what it has done for him. Congratulations to Geno Smith. Love to see stories like that. He's getting his shot, and he is making it work this season. So DK and Lockett, they're going to be must start weekly again, but the ceiling is going to be lower than it was against Detroit. Just keep in mind how bad that defense was. Now going up against New Orleans, it's a much better matchup, or it's a much tougher matchup, I should say, and because of that, just make sure you tone back some of that ceiling hope that we saw last week. Now, for New Orleans, Michael Thomas and Olave, they're both going to be starts right now. Obviously, we don't know about Michael Thomas and whether or not he will be healthy and ready to go. Olave continues to see decent volume. We need to get both of these guys out there. Olave didn't have a huge game last week, but he scored a touchdown, which was good to see. Production's there. Volume is there. Great matchup. Olave and Michael Thomas could both smash this week. Miami and the New York Jets is going to bring my Manscaped must-watch matchup of the week. Do not forget, head over to manscaped.com. Use code word headliners at checkout. Fill your cart up. Christmas is right around the corner. Get some presents for the men in your life. Fill up the cart. Code word headliners. You're going to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Absolutely looking forward to Miami and the New York Jets this week. A lot of talent, and as you can see here on the board, everybody is going to be a start. This is a good matchup on both sides of the board, especially for the New York Jets. No two of this week. Now that might lead to some inconsistencies for the offense, but my hope is that just like a Geno Smith, Teddy Bridgewater has been around enough that he's going to be put in a position to get the ball to his playmakers. If he does that, he's going to be just fine. Now maybe the ceiling is a little bit lower, but we know that the production or the volume is still going to be there, and hopefully the production will come with it. Listen, great matchup this week. We got to start all three, Moore, Davis, and Wilson. Wilson's going to have the highest upside. Corey Davis is going to be like right about here, and Elijah Moore is going to be right about here. Okay, so this was a concern about Elijah Moore. It was something that I put in the draft guide, listed him as a bust this season. Volume's been okay. Production has not been there. Garrett Wilson is a guy that has been an absolute stud so far this season. Corey Davis has been playing very, very well, very under the radar, a guy a lot of people forgot about. He's been playing well. He's a guy that you can actually start right now. He's a top 36 wide receiver. You can put him in as a wide receiver 3. This is a really good matchup. The ceiling is there for Wilson. The safety is there from Davis. And we're praying that Elijah Moore gets back to being himself. Atlanta and Tampa Bay, and Drake London, he's a tough one this week because this is a tough matchup. But Kyle Pitts isn't being used. Cordero Patterson is going to be missing. Somebody's going to have to get targets. So Drake London is going to be a start for me, but he is going to be an extremely risky start and will probably be maybe like a low-end wide receiver too. I don't know if the ceiling is going to be there, but who else is going to get the ball? It's going to have to be Drake London. On the flip side, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans obviously going to be a start. The production is through the roof right now. Dude is getting the targets that he needs, absolutely being the guy that we thought he would be in the preseason. So that's good. Definitely a guy we continue to start. The rest of the wide receiver core is a question mark, though. Chris Godwin appears to be healthy, but until I see it on a consistent basis, I'm being cautious with it, going up against an Atlanta team that has actually been very good this season on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Tampa Bay could be a completely different story, and Tampa Bay could go out and rip apart everything that they've done so far, but still, with it being a tougher matchup, with it being a situation where Chris Godwin getting worked back slowly, getting back into the thick of things, you've got a Russell Gage, you've got a Cole Beasley, you've got a Brashad Perriman, you've got a Cameron Brate at tight end, you've got a Rashad White, you've got a Leonard Fournette, you've got so many people around him. I want to start Chris Godwin, but I'm going to give it one more week to be cautious with what it potentially could be moving forward and do it in better matchups. Tennessee at Washington, I would have liked to make this my Manscaped must-watch matchup because this is a smash game for both of these teams, for both of these wide receivers. But there's just so many inconsistencies right now with both of them. For Tennessee, just offense as a whole is inconsistent. No Treylon Burks. He has turf toe. He's going to miss some time. I will start Robert Woods because of how good the matchup has been. But again, he's not really getting a whole lot of volume right now. He's doing okay with what he's getting, but he needs to get worked into the game plan more often, and this is the situation that he could do it. For Washington, they're going to be missing Jahan Dotson. He's got a hamstring injury. He's going to be missing a couple of weeks. Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, they're going to be a lot safer with no Dotson, and this is a really great matchup, but the offensive line has looked like garbage the last couple of weeks. Carson Wentz doesn't have any time to throw the football. He's not, even when he does, it's not the best passes in the world. These are both two very inconsistent teams that, yeah, you could rely on one of those guys, but just be careful that the floor is a little bit lower than what we would like. San Francisco at Carolina. And for San Francisco, Debo's balling out. Looked really good last week. Love to see that. Brandon Ayuk slowly starting to see his volume creep up, all right? And we're going to see that continue to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo being under center now. The big thing about Ayuk is the volume is going to get a little bit better, but it's the big plays. It's the yards after the catch. It's those things that have not come just yet. Be patient with it. Okay, this is a tougher matchup, so I'm going to go ahead and sit him in this matchup. But as we get better matchups, Ayuk is going to be a guy that we're going to have to start getting back into our lineup at one point in time because he's going to start producing. It's going to happen. For Carolina, we're just going to sit everyone. Why? Because the quarterback play is not good. Am I willing to say Baker Mayfield sucks? I'm not willing to say that. Baker Mayfield is inconsistent, however, and unfortunately, he just hasn't had any consistency in his career yet in terms of the coaches that he has worked with. And now he gets Matt Rule. Yeah. Not great. Philadelphia, Arizona, great matchup for Philadelphia to bounce back after that nasty weather game last week that limited the upside. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith could have a huge game here, high-scoring upside. That's going to lead me to my second Prize Picks prop to watch this week, and it is going to be Devontae Smith going over 55.5 receiving yards in a very, very good matchup. Very excited to see what he could do this week, along with A.J. Brown. And Marquise Brown, he's going to be a start. He's going to be a start. But this is a tough matchup. And Arizona's inconsistency so far on offense is part of the reason why we haven't been able to trust everyone around them. Would like to get Big Dortch Energy going. But again, inconsistencies in that offense. Marquise Brown is the number one. I will go with him knowing that obviously Kyler Murray is going to be looking his way. But everybody else around him, I think we just need to play it cool with this week. Dallas at the LA Rams. And listen, Dallas is actually looking good with Cooper Rush under center. CeeDee Lamb getting a ton of volume. He's going to be a start. Noah Brown is back to being a sit because Michael Gallup is back in the lineup. Now, Gallup only 2 targets, did score last week. We're not going to start him until we see some consistency and that volume creep up for him. That is what we need. Now for the LA Rams, obviously Cooper Kupp is going to be a start, but we are now officially done with Allen Robinson. Now, Allen Robinson for us in the preseason, we never put him in a must-have video. I don't think we even did a standalone video on Allen Robinson. The only thing we said about Allen Robinson, he wasn't even in the draft guide. I think the only place we listed him in the draft guide was the perfect draft, and that was when he had like a 7th round ADP. So if you drafted him in like the 7th round, it doesn't matter if you cut ties with him because you should have more than enough people in front of him. You weren't relying on him anyway. At this point, though, we talked about over the offseason, if he were to get going again with Matthew Stafford, we could see a really high ceiling with this guy, but it just isn't happening, and it's not completely A-Rob's fault. I see some people in the comments, I see it on Twitter, talking about, oh, I told you he couldn't separate. He's not. If you watch the game film, you see him separate. I did a game film breakdown on him a couple of weeks ago. He still is separating. He still has room. But the game plan is not based around Allen Robinson. It is to look at Cooper Kupp. It is to look at Tyler Higbee. And then Ben Skowronek. He's even getting looks right now. And this is a guy that couldn't catch a pass in the Super Bowl that's over Allen Robinson. So unfortunately for now, A-Rob is going to be a guy that we're going to have to be done with. Maybe at some point this season we get going. But the inconsistencies in that offense, Matthew Stafford being, banged up with that elbow injury, not good. It's leading to some issues. We're going to be done with A-Rob for now. Cincinnati at Baltimore. Now, Cincinnati, obviously, Baltimore, they've been inconsistent on defense. They've had some good weeks. They've had some bad weeks. They've had some really good plays. They've had some really bad plays. I mean, it's like Jekyll and Hyde in one game. These guys are up and down. It's crazy. So, Chase, Higgins, they will obviously both be starts. Tyler Boyd will be a sit for me in this matchup. If it was a little bit of a better matchup, we would get Tyler Boyd in there. But this one's a little bit tougher, so it'll be Chase and Higgins only. Bateman could end up missing some time. He's got a foot sprain. It could be a week or two. Let's keep an eye on that to see how it progresses throughout the week. If he does end up missing time, then the Duve is going to be a start for me because he's literally going to be kind of the only guy outside of Mark Andrews that will be healthy. Now, it could lead to some issues, but they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. He's going to be covered up, but again, you see it there. His production's a 4. His production, he's a top 24 on a wide receiver on a per game average. His volume's a 0, which means he's outside the top 60 wide receivers in targets. It's crazy what he's done with so few targets, but that is why he's got to be a start in this situation. The Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Big Monday Night Football interdivision rivalry. I wish there were some better people to play here. It is what it is. Adams, big bounce back last week. Big volume. Absolutely love it. Producing volume. We need the end zone, though. That's the big thing. Like, he's got to score, right? Like, he starts getting into the end zone again. Those are when we have huge weeks. I mean, even last week, he wasn't even a top 12 wide receiver with as many receptions and as many yards as he had. Other guys performed better. If he finds the end zone, he lands up there, but he didn't. And to my buddy out there in the comments that was really upset with me listing him as a wide receiver 15, love you too, buddy. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's going to be a start. giving away his jersey in this video, so that's got to be something good, right? There's got to be some polarizing conduction that says Juju has to be a good start this week if you're giving away his jersey, right? Well, that's what we're going to hope for. Fingers crossed. Maybe not a huge game. I do think 10 points is definitely within the realm. This is a good matchup for him. Potentially high-scoring game. We've seen that volume bump up a little bit. Just not really big plays as of yet. But I do believe those things could end up coming soon. This week, again, not a huge week, but I think right around 10 fantasy points is more than enough. But, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My top wide receivers for the week. What are we doing with them? Who are we starting? Who are we sitting? All the research that you need. Don't forget to come back on Thursday for the rankings video. Pair those two things together to make the best decisions possible. I'm going to get out of here, though. I'm going to get going. I got some stuff to do, more research to get done, some film study that I would like to do on several guys. Got to go get those things out. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe if you're new here. Leave a comment down below on who you are most excited for. Sign up for your account at Pristine Auction. Peace out. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.